tactics in Afghanistan are changing. There's going to be less fighting and more getting to know the locals. Let's get the latest from Dina Gusowski in our Washington studio and her guest, PR expert Tony Blankley. Well, Dina, hello to you, so introduce your guest.
Hi there. Well, top U.S. commanders warn that the Taliban is gaining the upper hand in Afghanistan. So the United States is trying to shift its strategy there. According to military reports, they're going to focus less on killing Taliban fighters and more on engaging and winning the support of the local population. But is this realistic given the number of civilian casualties as of late? Well, Tony Blankley is an author and contributor to the Washington Times. He says it's absolutely essential to empower the local tribal chiefs. Only then, he says, will the United States see progress in Afghanistan. But is this really possible? Well, joining me to discuss just that is Mr. Blankley himself. Thank you so much for being here.
Please.
So you wrote an article in which you said that the United States has to empower the local tribal chiefs, even the warlords. But isn't this essentially the dilemma that the United States faces? How do you differentiate between the good Taliban and the bad Taliban, the tribal leaders that you can trust and the ones that you cannot?
Yeah, the first problem is that the mission has shifted. In 2001, it was a punitive expedition because the Taliban regime had given support to al-Qaeda who attacked us. So we went in to turn them over. We did that successfully. Now, for the last 7 years, what is the mission? To keep the Taliban out and down? I suppose so. But then the question is, unless you stay forever, what kind of mechanism are you going to have to continue to suppress them? Either you're going to make a strong central government that will be able to, with its own federal military, national military, do the job, or you have to empower the tribal chiefs. I don't think we want to do the former because Afghanis don't like strong central governments. They never have. So therefore, by default, we have to figure out how to support the local tribal leaders. And I haven't been to Afghanistan recently. I was there in 1967 and later years. I've talked with the troops, both British and American, recently there. And I'm convinced that the Pashtun Taliban from Pakistan are judged as enemies by the Pashtun tribesmen in Afghanistan. And therefore, we will let them sort out between them who are the local Afghanis who they'll cut their deals with and who are the foreign Taliban who they'll want to kill. And if that doesn't work, then I'm not sure what will.
Well, the other problem that we have there is the drug problem, opium. You said that the United States cannot deny the poppy farmers the revenue, so that the United States should kind of buy off the yearly crop and use it for its own pharmaceutical needs, something that seems to make perfect sense. So why hasn't this been done already, or has it?
Well, because, as you know, most national leaders and a lot of citizens find drugs and heroin to be reprehensible and don't want to be an agent in its perpetuation. I talked to a British officer who had two assignments. One was to get rid of the poppy fields, this was a few years ago, and the other was to make friends with the locals. He said, "I can't do both. I can't do both because the poppy revenues are at the heart of the structure of the tribal culture. And so, since I think we have to rely on the tribal culture, then we cannot obliterate the poppy fields. I think that we can. I'm told it only costs $2 to $3 billion market value, street value in Afghanistan for the poppies. I think it's cheaper for us to buy it, keep the tribal culture functioning, keep the money, which they desperately need. It's a very poor country. And then we can either dispose of it or move it into the legitimate process, where it's used for various legitimate purposes.
Well, very briefly, last question. Back in 2001, it seemed that the Afghanis welcomed the U.S. Now we see a kind of shift in attitude. And you said that the Afghanis don't hate the U.S. right now, but they will if they stay there. Yeah. What caused this shift? And could Karzai have anything to do with it? Because I read several reports that said he's becoming more and more paranoid, thinking that allies are conspiring against him. What really caused this shift in attitude?
Well, he may not be paranoid. I think allies may be shifting against him. Look, as you know, in Muslim communities generally, there's an extraordinary tradition of being a gracious host. And that's not the same as wanting to have a permanent foreigner in your midst. We came over in our own interest, but also in the interest of many Afghanis who didn't like the Taliban. We kicked the Taliban out, and we were working and continue to work with the Afghanis. So long as they see us as temporary guests, then they're gracious hosts. If they begin to see us as a permanent occupier, then we look like foreigners to be killed. And I think that shift is in the process, but is not there yet.
Well, everyone's going to be watching how long the United States will be in Afghanistan. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to be back here live again next hour, but for now, back to you in Moscow.
All right, Dina, thank you very much indeed.